Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Plug in Play podcast. I am your host, Henry, and I will be your guide on everything video games. This episode, we have a lot to get into. I'm really excited about this one, ladies and gentlemen. This is Marathon, the announcement of Marathon, Bungie's new extraction shooter. Of course, the big topic of the discussion this week, not really discussion, but retelling my war stories of the Switch 2 pre-order launches. I have secured a Switch 2, and I'm going to let you know all the craziness that happened. Pretty much everybody who put pre-orders up, their site crashed. It went up in flames. I mean, it was traumatizing, to say the least. And we're going to get into every single bit of that for you, let you know how difficult it is to get your hands on one of those things in the future. I have a lot of smattering of impressions this week. Blueprints, the new super highly rated 89 on Metacritic right now, puzzle roguelite game. I'll let you know how I feel about that one. South of Midnight, one of Xbox's new games from their first-party studio, Compulsion Games. Have some interesting opinions on that one, I think. And Haste, a nice little indie platformer runner that you probably haven't heard of before, but I love giving lip service to these little indie games because it's rare for me to ever really have the time to get around to one. So very excited to talk about all of that. But before we get into it, why don't you give us a rating on your favorite podcast services? Really, we're everywhere. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Podcast Addict. I mean, you really can't go wrong anywhere. We deserve it. I mean, I'm still here. I haven't given up. And I think that's enough of a reason to give me a nice rating. Why not leave a comment, review? You can even send an email into the podcast at pluginplaypodcast1@gmail.com. If you can't remember it, it's in the description along with some timestamps. It's a labor of love in case you don't want to listen to anything I'm saying. You can skip to the stuff that you may want to hear me saying. And yeah, I think that's the bulk of it. Before we get into it, I'm going to have a little bit of a segue conversation. Love to incorporate some things that aren't necessarily video game news or video game impressions that are video game related right before we get into the news. The thing, of course, that kind of fits that topic is since the last episode, The Last of Us Season 2 has started to air on HBO. I watched all of Season 1. I thought it was a good show. This is, however, HBO's new flagship series. Season 1 was incredibly successful, and I mean, I love The Last of Us, don't get me wrong, but I didn't expect it to be that successful. I don't even think The Last of Us is the best story-based video game I've ever played by a long shot, really. I mean, it's a great game, don't get me wrong. Love the story, love the characters, love the writing. It's all top-notch. But to see this was the game that was chosen to be made into an HBO series, which I think honestly makes a lot of sense, and then it be as popular as it is, I just look at it and say, dang, man, people watch freaking anything with zombies in it and eat that up. I still don't understand how there's 5 shows still airing of The Walking Dead. I don't know a soul who watches The Walking Dead, but they have 5 spin-off shows still airing around that thing. And The Walking Dead proper was airing until fairly recently. And I was who's watching this? And I watched the first several seasons of Walking Dead, and I didn't like the vast majority of it. I thought it was boring. So I was this is clearly just a zombie effect. Anything with zombies in it, people will just consume it. But anyway, The Last of Us Season 2 started airing. I'm not going to lie. I did not really like the season opener. It bored me. It was an hour of setup, which is kind of what the game is, to be fair. That's what you're doing a lot of in the opening of The Last of Us, really, and just the entirety of The Last of Us 2 is talking to people. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of, almost movie-esque cutscenes, because, like, let's be real, that's kind of what they were trying to make with The Last of Us, is kind of a cinematic piece of art. But they also did a fantastic job, obviously, with the gameplay as well. I think it's a very well-designed game. But, like, there's obviously an element of, like, Neil Druckmann wants to be a dude who's also behind a camera and not just a game designer, too, or game director. So... but I was not super into the first episode. I don't know what it is about, and I feel like this is controversial. I'm not even trying to make it controversial. I don't like the chick who's playing Ellie. I think in general she's a good cast. But for some reason I really don't like Ellie in the first episode of The Last of Us. Like, I really don't like her, and I can't say I felt the same way in the game. Like, I don't know why that is, but I didn't. Like, I haven't really gone back and thoroughly examined my thoughts on why that is. But in the show, she just kind of seems like a whiny brat who's, like, kind of being an a-hole and, like, is a smarmy kind of prick, in all honesty. And, like, that is what Ellie is in the games too, but, like, I just never disliked her in a way that I do in the show. And the reason I say that's controversial is I'm pretty sure there's a lot of idiots on the internet who are like, hey, I don't like this Ellie chick because she's not hot. like that's the typical gamer response to everything, right? Is, oh, well, she's not hot, I don't like it. And it's like, okay, that's not a fantastic logic to jump to there, just because she's not hot. But anyway... episode 2 came out, though, and I was enthralled. Loved it. It was a great action-packed episode. Added a little bit of flavor here and there that the game really didn't have time to, or, a need to. And I guess that should be kind of an emphasis I put on this, is, like, this is going to be a while. Like, it's going to be stretched out. And The Last of Us 2 is a longer than it should be video game. So, like, this was going to make for a longer than it probably should be TV show. But that's the thing about TV shows now, is people will watch 5 seasons of freaking trash. So, like, there's no such thing as too long of a TV show. But not only is it going to be a really long TV show, but this is now one of HBO's... It is currently the most successful show they have in their docket at all. And it is... Okay, so it is the most successful season opener, I think. No, it's the most successful show initially for any HBO show, which makes complete sense because it was an established IP already, that a lot of people already knew. One of the better selling video games on a better selling console, so, like, it just kind of makes sense. But the season 2, I think the season 2 premiere was also incredibly successful. I don't think you can say it was, like, better than a Game of Thrones opener, but it was more successful than the Dragons, House of Dragons. It was more successful. More people have watched the season 2 opener of Last of Us season 2 than, like, one of the openers of the House of Dragons seasons. So, like, this is now HBO's most successful show. So, like, it is kind of crazy to put that into perspective, that this show is that big. And, like, and I remember even, like, season 1, there were, like, old people who were like my parents' friends were like, hey, I've been watching that Last of Us show. Not that my parents are, like, geriatric and everybody that's their friend is similar ages, like, sounds like they're really, really old. I'm sorry I had put that voice to it, but it was to emphasize they were older than me. But anyway, like, this is a mainstream thing. It's one of those things that regular people, like, not just a freak like me who has a video game podcast, is watching. Like, it's regular people who are watching this thing. So I really liked season 2, episode 2. Episode 1 kind of bored me and made me not like Ellie as much. I'm hoping that changes as we go forward, because if you played the game, you're going to spend a lot of time with Ellie, especially in the second game. So, it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. And I'm at this point, after season 2, episode 2, I am actually looking forward to the rest of the show. But that's all I have to say about that for now. We'll probably continue to give impressions as the show continues. A nice little intro segment for every episode. So now into the news. The news, my favorite segment, of course. So we have only a couple of topics this week, but the Switch 2 pre-order is going to be meaty. It's not really news, but I think it is super fun to talk about. I'm amped to talk. I'm still running off of the high, if you couldn't tell, of pre-ordering a Nintendo Switch 2. We'll get into it in a minute, but we'll start off with the Marathon announcement. So, I am not a big multiplayer guy. I didn't even have time, full disclosure, I have not had time to do a whole lot recently at all. I've been pretty busy. This episode I'm having to release on this is like a time capsule in a way. I'm recording it way earlier than I normally do because I'm going to be out of town. And then, my impressions are also a kind of a halfway done effort this time. I'll get into it in a bit, but I normally only do impressions if I finish a game, and I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to actually talk about a couple of games that I haven't beat at all. So anyway, I haven't had a lot of time, so I didn't actually watch this press release for Marathon. I've only seen the highlights. I understand the above criteria, and in all honesty, I would not be the guy to talk about this anyway and really go into detail on I saw them doing this mechanic and therefore I can tell this game, that's a really interesting thing for them to do in a first-person shooter extraction genre. Because I don't know. I don't play a lot of multiplayer shooters or multiplayer games, and I don't play I've never played an extraction shooter. Technically, I've played The Division 1. But that's the closest thing. For some reason, it is an extraction shooter, and for some reason, nobody compares it to an extraction shooter. For some reason, it never comes up in the conversation. At least, I guess because it's third person. I really don't know. But anyway, I am not the best person to go into the nitty gritty of this game. However, I can talk about a certain aspect of it, and I think it's the more interesting conversational piece here. But Marathon is the new Bungie game, and that's really what you need to know, okay? The big bold letters here is Bungie's making a new game. Bungie, the creators of Halo, one of the most influential, successful franchises of all time in the first-person shooter space, and also the people who have been locked behind Destiny for the past several, a long time. I'd actually have to go back and look at the dates on that. But have been locked into Destiny, which is also a highly influential game, honestly, for what I think is the worst of it. I don't like cursor menus in games. Maybe I'm just old as cool. But I don't like cursor menus in games. And Bungie's the mother efforts who did that with Destiny. They are the reason that cursor menus exist in 90% of games now. But anyway, if I wanted to do that, I'd just play on PC. But anyway, this is the first time in a long time that Bungie has stepped out of their comfort zone, or not their comfort zone, but stepped away from Destiny and just made something completely new. Even though Marathon is technically a really old IP, we're going to say it's freaking new because I didn't know Marathon existed before this. I kind of did, but I really don't know that much about Marathon at all, and I don't think most people do. So we're going to say this is most certainly a new IP for Bungie here. But it is an extraction shooter, and that is the other big bullet point you want to add to this is the genre. And if you don't know, an extraction shooter is a kind of game. It's a online kind of almost battle royale-esque. A lot of players are dropped into a map, and there's loot everywhere. And your goal is to extract that loot, the extraction part of the extraction shooter. The trick of this is that when you extract, you kind of give off your position. you have to sit and wait to be extracted to get your loot out, and when you do that, you're inviting other players to come and kill you. And if they kill you, they get to take your loot, and then they can extract it. And then so if you die, just like a battle royale, you're out, and you have to start a new game, and you lose everything. So really, it's a very high yield, like a high risk, high reward game. And that's why everybody who talks about this is like, this is a very hardcore genre, and it's going to be difficult for Bungie to make this like a successful thing for a large audience. And I'm like, I mean, maybe. I mean, we just really haven't seen an example. I haven't seen an example yet of something that would be considered like a hardcore extraction shooter that would be translatable to that. Like Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown is the definitive, like, this is an extraction shooter, kind of what popularized it. The thing about Hunt Showdown is there's a large barrier to entry with that game, right? It is a game that you cannot download on a PS5 or Steam. Like, you have to go off of your normal channels and it has its own launcher, and that's the only way to play it. And so, like, I think that's a huge barrier to entry. Like, I think if you have a game, which I was about to say free to play, this is not a free to play game, which is the other in the last big bullet point here. If you have a game that's accessible on a console, a mainstream console or Steam, and you can just download it, start playing it, I think that opens it up to a much wider audience. Right now, we don't really have that. So it's interesting to see people say, like, this is going to be really difficult for people to go into. I've never played an extraction shooter before, so I don't know the pain. The pain and loss of having to extract and being shot in the face. And admittedly, like, the idea of an extraction shooter sounds really cool. And, like, when I'm sold that, I'm like, that sounds like a fun time that's going to lead to a lot of really cool moments and a lot of really high highs, but also, obviously, a lot of really low lows. But, like, all I focus on is the really high highs, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll try that. And then everybody who plays them is like, bro, these things are hardcore as frick. Like, you will get shot in the face. You will have a bad time. Like, 90% of the time, you're going to not extract, and it's going to feel like you did everything for nothing. And I'm like, well, yeah, I play Fortnite, bro, and I feel like that all the time. Like, you know, like, I get to the top 20 in Fortnite after playing for like 15 minutes of doing nothing but just running around and gathering stuff, and, like, then I die and it's all for nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's just part of the game. Like, that's the build up to what happens in this mode, you know, like, and it's fun. So, like, I don't know why people are acting like this is worse than that. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm from all the accounts I've heard, it is. So, you know, it is what it is. But you know, like, this is another Bungie game, which is a big deal. People still have a lot of high thoughts and praise to give towards Bungie. Destiny had its last expansion, I believe, a year or two ago, and it was very well received. It was considered a very, very good thing, even though Destiny is, like, considered kind of a roller coaster in terms of its quality, even by the people who love it. It went off on a good note, so that's good. And then obviously Halo's dying, but that's not anything to do with Bungie. They've been completely removed for it for a while. So the big thing that came out that everybody was kind of freaking out about, we really don't have enough info yet. We really just need to see how many people are going to be playing this game, you know, what the audience is, you know, and then get your hands on it specifically, right? Like, that's what we'd have to have moving forward in order to really make a definitive call on this. And then critics have had their hands on this, and they're like, there's problems with it, but I trust Bungie enough that they're going to probably fix these things by the time launch happens, so it is what it is. And I'm like, okay, so we don't know if this game is going to be good or not. Like that's a great for hands-on impression, and I'm glad we're giving Bungie so much credit there. And I don't know, it's we'll get into it in a second, but the big headline here is they came out and people were like, okay, Sony, you just had Concord come out. You charged $40 for it. That was one of the big things that everybody was like, that's what killed this game. Are you going to charge for this game? And Sony was like, well, yeah, we're definitely going to charge for this game, but we're not going to tell you what we're charging, but we're definitely charging for this game. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe it. Another multiplayer game, Sony, games as a service game that Sony is trying to push out under $40, like under the $40 price tag. That's kind of crazy after what Concord did. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. Specifically, Helldivers 2 exists and was a massive success. It was also $40. Concord was $40, sure, but like it was not as unique of a game as Helldivers 2 was. This is now an extraction shooter, which is not a very overpopulated genre, and certainly not overpopulated on the PlayStation 5. So like, I think it makes a little bit more sense, and Sony does have data showing, yeah, people are going to be okay buying a $40 game that's a live service game because they bought Helldivers 2. So, like, that's why they're still probably sticking to their guns. Again, this may not even be a $40 game, it may be $20, but, like, honestly, you need to go with, like, a $40 price point or free. Like, there should not be, like, oh, well, it's $20. It's like, well, why 20? You know, like, because that's more palatable. Honestly, people are going to be looking at this game and they're going to say, am I willing to pay money for it, or do I want it for free? Like, is it going to start competing with games like Fortnite and Apex Legends and stuff like that? Like, that's what you're really looking at here. You know, I don't think if you're willing to pay $20, you're willing to pay 40, because I think we just live in an economy right now that's like, if you want to play a multiplayer game, you have so many good options that are just free that you would just go to them. Like, you don't need to pay money for a Fortnite clone or anything clone that you already have for free and is likely one of the best games ever made and will continue to be made for decades. So we have this big conversation now around, oh, snap, am I willing to pay $40 for this game? Is this game going to be another Concord? And, you know, like, I see two sides of this conversation, okay? I see, hey, they're effing up. This is exactly what made Concord fail. You know, you charge money for this game that should be free. It's gonna flop on its face. Like, there's no way around it. And then the other half of the conversation is no way this game is gonna fail. It has everything going for it because Bungie's behind the wheel. Bungie is this storied developer that can do no wrong. And, like, because Bungie is such a talented development studio, there is no way that, or this thing has a massive chance of success. I don't think I've heard anybody say, like, there's no way this game can fail, because we've seen too many examples of live service games failing. So those are the two sides of the coin that I see here, and I think both are stupid. I think, honestly, both are not correct, like, at all, okay? So, Concord. Comparing this game to Concord, there are definitely, you know, parallels, right? Concord is a flop of a game. I mean, I reported on it several times here, or talked about it several times here on the podcast, right? Every instance, every little teeny weeny thing that they did somehow resulted in one of the biggest failures ever in video game history. That's just a fact. Can you point to any one single thing they did and say this is the reason why Concord failed? I still maintain to this day, no, you can't. I think Concord was a remarkably okay video game. As somebody who played the beta, Concord did not suck, okay? Concord wasn't a horrible game. It was just an okay one. And for some reason, a game that did not capture the zeitgeist, people did not like the look of it. They thought it was too generic. They didn't think they wanted to have sex with the characters for whatever reason, okay? I thought the mushroom chick was hot. But some people will disagree. So I think that there's a lot of reasons you can say, oh yeah, well, that's why Concord failed. You cannot definitively put an answer to that at all. I think it is always going to be a conundrum. It's always going to be a mystery. It's just a right place, right time, or a wrong place, wrong time kind of thing that just all accumulated to something being an absolute dumpster fire. Okay. Because even as it's like from Sony's perspective, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I kind of understand why I thought Sony thought that this game was going to do really well. So like, and again, I've gone through these thoughts many times on previous episodes. It was a very big story of last year, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. However, I've also harped on Bungie kind of sucks, okay? Like, and like I know a lot of people are going to get defensive about that statement, okay? Because I just said, Destiny 2 ended off with a really great expansion. They were one of the most influential and, notable developers of the past 20 years, making Halo, like one of the biggest series in the world, that really, especially in the West, was like an absolute like mainstream phenomenon, that honestly is the only reason Xbox survived past the first generation. I mean, like, they're kind of dead now other than as a brand and a publisher, but like that thing would have been dead in the water if it wasn't for Halo kind of supporting it. So I've never been a huge Halo fan. I've played all the Halo games. The shooting is good. I am not that big of a shooter guy, so like everybody's like, oh, well, Bungie's shooting is the best. Like, you really can't get around how great Bungie's shooting is. And it's like, I guess I believe you. But like, I really don't play enough shooters to be like, well, yeah, I can really see the differences in how like great this shooting is in Bungie games versus like Call of Duty or, I don't know, Resistance Fall of Man or something like that. Like, I can, but like it's very minor to me. And the fact that that would be the reason that these games are like so successful is surprising to me. Maybe people will buy a game because the shooting feels good, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm just not in that boat, so I can't really speak to it. But what I can speak to is that Bungie has clearly been making a lot of mistakes, okay? A lot of mistakes. They have drained themselves. Like, they were bought by Sony for over $1 billion, which is insane. And we all know now, and we all everybody in the gaming industry was talking last year and like, hey, yeah, Bungie, kind of a really horrible acquisition, like a really, really bad acquisition. These are the guys who came in with quote unquote expertise in live service games. Destiny is a critical success, a commercial failure. No one's playing Destiny. Destiny isn't making money. And every time I hear somebody talk about Destiny, it's always, especially the hardcore, it's always the hardcore Destiny community because it's the only people who play Destiny, but they're always the people saying, this game sucks. Like, half the time I hear them say, I'd say honestly, like 60 to 75% of the time I'm hearing them say, this game is horrible. Dang, Bungie really dropped the ball. This is really garbage. And like, then they'll come back and they'll have a new expansion or they'll tweak the expansion or whatever, and they'll be like, this game is one of the greatest games of all time. I love it so much. And I'm like, okay, you really need to make up your mind because that sounds like a really abusive relationship, okay? And like, you're not hearing that talk anymore because Destiny 2 ended on a really good expansion. But like, if you remember any of the conversation like I do over the past like whatever 15 years of Destiny, you will remember mother effers not shutting up about how much they hate a game that they're putting thousands of hours into. So like, I can't sit here and say that Destiny is like this best game of all time or whatever that people are kind of making it out to be. So, like, they were responsible for shutting down The Last of Us Online and letting Concord survive. Because they were evaluating all of Sony's games as a service games, and they said, like, guess what? The Last of Us Online is gonna fail. Like, you need to cancel it. Which, hindsight's 2020, but that game would have popped off. Like, even if it sucked, it would have been financially successful because people would have bought it just because the Last of Us TV show is successful. Like, the Last of Us TV show, like I was just talking about, is like one of the most successful TV shows in a long time, very long time. And guess what? People buy the remakes. Like, Sony's pumping out remakes of these games that aren't even that old so that people will just have a thing to buy alongside the video game or the show in case they like the show and they want to go experience the video game. And that's what people are doing. Like they're just buying a new $70 version of a game that they could easily have, or for like $20 or less. So it's like, I think that game would have easily been a success, even if it also was developed by Naughty Dog. So that would have been probably a very good point in its favor. Another very storied, successful, talented developer. So kind of weird that they were like, yeah, let Concord through and kill The Last of Us, even if they maybe were right and The Last of Us would have been a total trash fire. I don't know. But we know that like they kind of misled Sony on their finances. They're bleeding money. They've cost money. It cost Sony a significant amount of money, not only from the acquisition, but just keeping them alive. Like, I can go into many details about how last year was an absolutely eye-opening moment for Bungie in how I really can't think anybody would look at Bungie and say, this is one of the most talented developers in the first-person shooter space or in the video game space, because they've made so many mistakes. Like they've made it such a big problem. I think if they had not been acquired by Sony, they would be in a significant hard place right now, financially. I think it would be difficult for them to weather the storm, and they got out lucky as frick because they had kind of fudged the numbers a little bit when reporting to Sony and telling them, oh yeah, we're making tons of dough on this whole Destiny thing, and then like Sony got a hold of them and was like, oh yeah, you're doing so bad. Like one of the deals of when buying Bungie was to let them be fully autonomous. Like they were going to do whatever they wanted. And like one of the clauses in the contract was like, if you guys suck enough, we will just take over. And they did. Like they did. Sony now is like running Bungie when their initial contract said that they were going to be fully like autonomous. So like, I think if you are legit looking at Bungie as this powerhouse developer still, that's like, oh, we're the next game they're going to make is going to be another Halo. Like it's going to have the appeal of a Halo. It's going to have this gameplay that's going to be long lasting like Destiny. Like I don't know, honestly, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of either one of those games for a variety of reasons, but like I think even if you look at it from like an objective standpoint, right? I think you're looking at this and you're looking at a developer that's clearly not as good as people are saying they are, right? Like I think that's kind of where we're at. And like maybe Marathon will come out and it will be the best first-person shooter of all time and everybody will love it. I think we're looking at more of another Destiny situation though, based on what I'm hearing, is Destiny is going to be, or Destiny was this really big hit that really dwindled to a small number of dedicated players and wasn't really financially successful because of that. And it really seems like even if Marathon is really, really good, that has to be the inevitable outcome because this genre is so hardcore. Is eventually, even if this game is a massive success, it will dwindle to absolutely nobody but the hardcores playing it. And there will be no reason for anybody new to get involved at all because you're just going to be absolutely trounced by veteran players in a hardcore genre. So, like, I don't know. This just seems like it has another, in all honesty, kind of another failure written on it. When you really put that all into perspective, I think, honestly, the $40 price tag really doesn't have anything to do with it. I think it's only going to hurt it, though, for sure. I think a lot of people have just gotten accustomed to you don't pay money for a good multiplayer game. Like go play freaking Overwatch, go play Marvel Rivals, go play Fortnite, go play Apex Legends, go play Call of Duty Warzone. Like the list goes on. Those are just the popular ones right now. Like, like you will have a new flavor of the week in a month or two that's a free-to-play game, and it will be successful enough, at least for a period of time, that you'll have fun with it. So, like, this is, I don't know. I think putting a price tag on this is a mistake, but we'll see. I think the game in general is not going to be successful, though. I think the price tag is a minor part of that, or only a smaller component of it. So, like, maybe not a smaller component, but it will be a significant component. How about that? So that's Marathon. My take is everyone's wrong and the game sucks. No, that's not what I think. But it is like I think a very much more nuanced opinion to this. I can't remember if I said, but I think you're wrong. Yeah, I did say that. If you thought Concord was, this is another Concord, I think you're wrong there too. So like, I think everybody's wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. There you go. My very elitist take. Anyway, next up, a little bit of a smaller announcement, but one I did want to talk about because it's just a big deal. And I wouldn't normally say that. I would think I'm pretty biased saying that, but I think objectively it is now. I think I can kind of say that with certainty. And that's the Oblivion remake announcement. That's right. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, the game from my childhood, literally 20 years ago. Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out on the Xbox 360. It was eventually ported to PS3, which is where I played it. And by golly, I loved that game. It was probably one of the first games I really like. I mean, it was like a problem how much I enjoyed that game. And I love telling this story because it really is like, it's kind of absurd. But like I would play that game so much. I got so really okay. So let's rewind a little bit more. Is the first time I played it, I actually hated it because I didn't know, I'd never played a game like it before, and I was like, ooh, I can steal stuff. Like I was 13 or something at the time. So I was like, ooh, I can steal stuff. This game's crazy. I don't normally get to steal things in games. I'm going to be a thief. And so I built myself around being a thief. I put all my stats into being like all my, entry level stuff into being a thief. And then like I was like, but I only want to use magecraft. Like I was like, well, I also like I want to be a mage. Like whenever I play a game like this, I typically kind of gravitate towards a more of a magical play style if given the opportunity. And I was like, well, I want to be a mage. And so I tried to use magecraft. And really, you don't get great mage spells in Oblivion until kind of later in the game. Like, you can definitely still use, like, spells. But, like, harder, like, even entry-level spells on a normal difficulty with your stats low is going to be kind of a challenge. So I would go into, like, I remember going into, like, every cave I went into. Like, that was just filled with, like, rats and, like, skeletons would absolutely destroy me. I remember having to quick save over and over and over and over again after every like hit, after every like enemy, because every single enemy was this massive threat because my stats were so low. They were all in like stealth and I didn't know how to be stealthy. So like I couldn't kill anybody because my magic stats were so low. And I was getting the crap kicked out of me and dying like in 3 hits because like my defense was so low because thieves don't have either one of those things. So like I was like I refused to use. I wasn't using a bow, which is probably what like I didn't want to use a bow at all. So like that's probably where my like offensive stats were, and then obviously like sneak attacks. But like you really can't do that much in Oblivion. I know like people do that a lot in Skyrim, but it is what it is. But anyway, I put the game down and I was like, this game sucks. And like I eventually went back to it, tried it again. I was like, no, I'm not going to be a thief this time. I'm just going to be a straight up mage. And I loved it. I got so into it that I would play for hours and hours and hours and hours on end to a point. And I didn't know this was possible. I thought this was something that you just see in the movies, right? But I eventually started hallucinating that I was in the game. And I'm like, not like literally, okay? I wasn't like walking through a dungeon or like freaking whatever, but I thought that I could walk through people because in Oblivion, you can do that. Like it's a jank game, right? It's an old Bethesda game. So you can kind of like walk through people for the most part. And like I had been playing the game for so long that I remember I went upstairs to get dinner and I legit thought I could like walk through my parents because I was like, I'm in Elder Scrolls. Like I'm in Oblivion right now. I can just walk through them. And like I was like later discovered that this was because I hadn't been eating. I was hallucinating because I hadn't been eating or drinking anything for hours and hours and hours on end and doing nothing but playing Oblivion. So my body was like, dude, you're messed up. And like I eventually started hallucinating. So you certainly can do that. You don't have to take mushrooms. Just treat your body horribly for hours and hours on end, and you will too live in the world of Elder Scrolls. But anyway, I love the game. Played it for many hours. And the remake was like, this is okay. So it was announced on April 22nd. This is being developed by Virtuous, which is basically a support studio. They pretty much did all of the work. Bethesda's, of course, taking credit for it as well. They did support. They supported them. It was probably fun for them to do that. But or not a huge big deal for them to do that. But I think the most of the work here was being done by Virtuous. Completely remade in Unreal Engine 5, which kind of has led to a lot of the character models being kind of uncanny. But that's really the biggest thing here. But everything was pretty much remade from the ground up, right? Different new combat, not new combat, but like enhanced combat, enhanced visuals, enhanced UI. Like a lot of stuff has been updated. Still the bones, still pretty much the exact same in a lot of ways, but like noticeable improvements. I played the game briefly. I got through the tutorial. Since it's on Game Pass, I was just like, yeah, sure. I want to see what they did. And while it is very much a loyal copy of the game in a lot of ways, I remember I started fighting rats in the first area in the tutorial, and I got hit by a rat and I recoiled, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's new. And I threw a punch or something, and I lunged at the rat, and I was like, whoa, you do that now? That is not something that happened in the original game. It was just such an old game, and honestly pretty new in the way it was trying to approach a lot of things at the time. So a lot of things were still pretty jank. I mean, it's also made by Bethesda, so that's just natural. But it's also pretty jank. So this is clearly a game that tries to get rid of a lot of that jank, while they also are like, well, we're actually trying to leave a lot of the jank in because that's just part of the charm of a Bethesda game, which is kind of sad in a way, but at the same time, I totally understand that. So I would love to be playing this game right now. There's just so much else out there to play that is also so good that it's hard for me to really justify putting 60 hours into a game that I've already played, even though I really, really want to walk down memory lane and experience this game again. The reason I was like, oh, this is not going to be that big of a deal, bro, 600,000 people were watching the reveal on YouTube. I didn't think people would care. I was like, people talk bad about Bethesda so much. It's been so long since an Elder Scrolls game. This is an old Elder Scrolls game. It's a shadow drop, so not that many people are going to know to even be here to watch it. And it's no way people are going to give a frick. 600,000 people concurrently watching the reveal on YouTube. That is massive numbers, insane numbers for a shadow drop, which I think is funny to talk about because this is the most not shadow dropped game I've ever seen in my entire life. This has been an open secret that quote unquote leakers have been quote unquote leaking for months. Not only has this been in an open secret for literally years at this point, but it's also been the past several weeks. You will constantly hear people be like, it's getting shadow dropped, maybe this week, maybe next week, but it's totally getting shadow dropped. It'll be any day now. Any day they're going to drop this game. So it was they were like, oh, what, April 22nd, this is Oblivion live stream. What are we going to talk about? It's Oblivion, but what are we going to talk about? It's yeah, okay, duh. We all know. It's at this point, it's the biggest open secret ever. I've never seen a game leaked this heavily. To the point where, for some reason, they didn't know. None of the leakers knew the exact release date for this thing, which tells me that this release date was in flux for a really long time. They were changing it for some reason. I don't know why, but the week that they decided to put out this game was the same week, less than 3 days before another game that they've heavily been marketing, Expedition 33. And it's why did you do that? This is not clearly this is not a marketing campaign that needed to be severely pushed, because you're shadow dropping it. and you can apparently were planning on shadow dropping it like weeks ago, and you just didn't. So why did you decide to drop it 3 days before another game that you've heavily marketed and is a major Game Pass game that now is getting, it is a 90 plus game on Metacritic, which is crazy. That game didn't even look good, and now it's a 92 on Metacritic, and I cannot wait to play it. And I'm going to be busy, so I won't be able to, which sucks. But it doesn't look good, but it is getting amazing reviews, okay? But, like, why did you decide to do that? I think that only hurts Expedition 33. Like, I think it only hurts it. I think even if you released it, like, 3 days after Expedition 33, that's better than releasing it 3 days before. People only have a certain amount of money. And if you give them Oblivion before they're able to really know that Expedition 33 is, like, a big deal by reviews, what the frick are you thinking? I don't know. This just seems like a really big blunder here, and I don't understand how they thought it was a good idea when they could have literally shadow dropped it whenever they wanted. So I don't understand that, but I went on longer than I thought I was going to talk about that. I really just wanted to use this as an excuse to talk about Elder Scrolls Oblivion because I really love that game. It's a very big part of my childhood, and I would love to play it, but I have so many games in my backlog, I just don't know when I'm going to get the time. Like, we are about to be in a very heavy release window area for a lot of really good games for the rest of the year. So it's just going to be really hard to find the time. But that's all I got to say. Moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the big segment. I am hyped. I'm really excited to talk about this. I'm still running on the high. This is the day, I'm recording this the day after Switch 2 pre-orders came into existence, okay? When they were unleashed upon the wild, the consumers of America, they've actually gone up in other countries before, but like America, this is the first you could get your hands on one. And it was a bloodbath. It was, I don't have to be on the front lines of an actual war because I was on the front lines of the Switch 2 pre-orders, okay? This was something we had been trying to figure out for a long time. Between this episode and the last episode, Nintendo came out, and they actually were like, okay, we actually have a date. We're going to go live on, like, April 24th or whatever it was, April 23rd. Depends on your area, time zone. And, get ready. All retailers, except for us, Nintendo, like everybody else, we're going forward with it. It's like, okay, all the big retailers are going to be happening then, which is funny because I was talking in my last episode, like, here's all the stuff you need to know about the Switch. And I was like, I'm so glad I stayed off from talking about this because there's so many details. I'm sure I got something wrong. That was something I got wrong. Somebody was like, this is the pre-order date for Switch, and they said it was all retailers, and it's just Nintendo. So, like, in my last episode, that was the one thing I know I got wrong, was I said, like, oh, pre-orders will go up on May 8th. And, like, I'm technically not wrong when I say that. That's Nintendo's pre-order window, but it's not all retailers, which is what I was intending to say, but I didn't actually say that. So I shouldn't have said that. I should just sound right. Should have pretended like I was right the whole time. But anyway, this was Target, Walmart, Best Buy, and GameStop. It's a absolute nightmare for every single one of these. You go on Twitter and you see pretty much everybody like, this is like the worst thing ever. Bro, I don't know. I think the PS5s was worse, to be quite frank, because nobody knew what was even happening there. You had to go on PlayStation's direct website. When people would put it up, it was like sporadically on websites, and like bots would pretty much immediately take it. Like, I think some of the websites were a little bit more prepared for that. Some of them weren't, though. The bigger ones were, the smaller ones weren't, but every single one of these retailers. Okay, so I went through the process of I did secure my Switch 2. I will get a Switch 2 on launch day. I got it through Walmart. I actually got two, oh my gosh, don't hate me. I got 3 Switch 2s, okay? I got 3. And you're like, Henry, why the frick did you get 3 Switch 2s? Because I got 5 PS5s, okay? You're like, Henry, I hate you. You're a scalper. You're the worst person ever. Okay, listen, okay? I am the sweaty nerd, okay? And the bots are coming for these things. I have a lot of friends that want to play this or have kids, and they want to give this to their kids, and they don't have the time or the nerd know-with-all on when this stuff is happening and how to do it, okay? I do, because I'm a freak. I have a video game podcast, okay? I am the hardest of the hardcore, all right? Maybe not the hardest of the hardcore, but I am definitely in the upper echelon of nerd, video game nerd, okay? They will never get their hands on one of these things, okay? That's what I did with the PS5, is I got 5 PS5s, okay? Obviously, 1 for me. The other 4 went to friends and family at market price. I did not scalp them. Like I gave 1 to my cousin, gave 1 to my neighbor's kids, gave 1 to a friend's kid, and then one of my neighbors had a friend that was also had a kid that wanted a PS5 for Christmas, and you could not find those things for Christmas. So that's what I did. I gave them to people at market price. I was basically Santa Claus for the PS5s for the people in my neighborhood or my life, right? That's what I'm trying to do here with the Switch 2, because I genuinely believe the Switch 2 is going to be another one of these items. I mean, Nintendo has already come out and said, there's no way we can meet demand here. Japan itself, they were like, there's no way we can meet the demand in Japan because we had millions of people sign up for the pre-order window just for our website in Japan, and we don't have that much stock allocated for the entire country. So, there is no way we are meeting Japan's expectations, and we likely will see this. I mean, admittedly, I think Japan is a lot more hardcore on Nintendo than most of the world, but because it is a Japanese company and they tend to kind of gravitate towards that. But I think we're going to see that same thing with the Switch 2 in the rest of the world. I think, and if not, I cancel the pre-orders. I get my money back. It's not that big of a deal, right? So I have 3 pre-orders for a Switch 2. I think this thing is going to be very difficult to find. I think if you want this thing for Christmas, I think good luck. I think if you wait until Christmas to try to find this thing, I think it's going to be really difficult. And I could be completely wrong. We don't actually know how much Nintendo stock has. We really don't know. And we don't know if the tariffs is also an issue. Getting stuff into the country, they could lower the number of units they're going to get if if the tariffs continue or if they go up or whatever the case is. So there's just a lot of elements that we really don't know, but we do know that it was incredibly difficult to get one of these things at launch, right? Here's the thing. I got 3 of them. I got them through 3 different retailers. One of them I could not even get, and I did everything I possibly could, okay? So this is like me. I'm going to walk down every single one. This was, a night, okay? So pre-orders went live in my area, my time zone, 11 o'clock Central on a Wednesday. This was, an event for me. I love the rush of trying to get these things. It is so difficult to get them. It is a nightmare to get them, but that's part of what makes it a little bit more satisfying, right? I kind of understand Souls games now. It makes sense. But I was watching a live stream. I normally just watch, or I normally just follow Twitter and try to kind of gather what's going on through Wario64, right? In this case, I heard of a guy from the Giant Bombcast that was doing a live stream that was, launch day, and he was going to basically be trying to do everything in his power to try and give tips, tricks, and helpful information on pre-orders. So he was kind of guiding the entire chat on Walmart's up, Walmart's down, because a lot of times you're sitting there and you're doing it yourself and you're like, why can't I get into the website? What's going on? Am I the only one having this issue? And you're not. Like, everybody's having that issue. Like, and throughout the stream, like, he actually did give me advice that was very helpful. Like, at one point, something I never, like, Best Buy went live, and, like, I didn't know, because when I refreshed the page, I couldn't even click on checkout. And then he was like, oh, well, if you're in a browser, if you're in X browser, it's not going to show up. You have to be in a different browser. So go to a different browser. And I didn't freaking know that. So I had to switch to another browser. But anyway, I was on this live stream. It made it even more of an event. We were all trying to get these switches. And like, we were all experiencing the same thing at the same time. It was a really cool feeling, a really cool moment. But 11 o'clock, the first retailer to go live is Target. Okay, they go live a little bit earlier than everyone else, and it is, I think, they had easily the worst time out of every single retailer, and it was an absolute nightmare. All right, immediately the app, their mobile app and their website both crashed. You could not even get into the website or the app at all. Eventually, I got stuck in the checkout, okay? The app comes back up, and they're like, okay, go for the app. I add it to my cart, and I get stuck in the checkout. No payment methods are working. I am so frustrated with this. I'm trying to use Apple Pay. It's like, no, you can't use Apple Pay. There's an error. Of course, this is server overload for them. They have no way of dealing with this. They have, so I switched to my credit card, and I enter all my credit card information. And in these sales, every second matters, right? Every second. So, like, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, I got to get this in. Putting in my credit card information, I put it in. Can't process your credit card information. There's an error. I'm like, what the frick? So I'm having to do this over and over and over and over and over again. And I continue to do this, by the way, for the rest of the night. Eventually, I get a confirmation email. It comes through. It says, Henry, congrats. You got a Switch 2. You're the man. I say, yes. Ooh, that was painful, but I don't have to worry anymore. Ooh, take a deep breath. We don't have to worry anymore. We have the Switch 2. I've stopped trying to get it. Like 3 minutes later, I get a cancellation email. I get a cancellation email. It says, actually, yeah, I know we sent you a confirmation email, and you said we said you had that Switch 2, but actually, psych, we canceled that order. We're not honoring it. F off. And I was just like, oh no. Okay, so we're back in it. So now the adrenaline's going again. I'm like, I gotta get the Switch 2. I still don't have one. This is a nightmare. So I'm going back in, and basically for the rest of the night, I'm just mashing on my phone, just mashing it over and over and over again. Order, confirm order. And it's a total trash fire. Total trash fire. Orders are going through, but like, it's obviously Target's websites keep crashing. Nobody's able to put in their payment information and have it work. This is an absolute dumpster fire, right? Rewind a little bit. Walmart has a different system. So Target doesn't have this, but Walmart and Best Buy both do, and that's queues. So when you enter the queue, instead of going to like the checkout, you are immediately put into a queue. In the queue, then like you're in basically a virtual line, and when you get to the front, you eventually get to put the Switch 2 in your cart and check out. And so this is intended to stop bots, right? So Walmart never crashed, and it shouldn't. I actually know some of the people who work in the Walmart IT department, and I know that it's incredibly sophisticated. It's incredibly, it's a very well done system. And I would think that out of all these retailers, they're the biggest. They have the most money behind them. So they're going to have the best servers. They're not going to have an issue here, right? So it's intended to stop bots. Bots aren't supposed to be able to pick up the Walmart pre-orders. So these guys go live, and I get put in the queue. And I'm like, okay, we'll sit in on this. This is at least a passive process. Like Target, I'm having to mash the button over and over and over again for an hour. Walmart, it's like, you just sit here and chill. Like, you don't have to do anything. You have already been chosen as one of the people in the line. You will be pulled in at some point. So I did it in both the website and the app because it puts you in different queues. So it's not just like, well, you have one account and therefore you're only in one queue. It's okay, you count as one person in line for your phone and you count as one person in line for the website. So you want to do both if you're doing that. So I go in on both, and obviously there's no rhyme or reason for this because eventually I do get let in on my phone, which I was in second before the browser. So I'm like, okay, cool. At this point, I still don't have a Switch 2 pre-order, by the way. So, at all. So I'm like, okay, this was about after an hour of waiting in the queue. It finally lets me in on my phone. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in. We've got it. It's in the bag. And you want it from Walmart because Walmart is one of the only retailers that is guaranteeing a day one release. They're one of the only ones. Everybody else, like Target, is somebody that people were kind of miffed by. They were getting Target pre-orders, but they were like, oh, well, they're not guaranteeing a launch day release or a launch day delivery. It's like, yeah, you have to do that at Walmart. Walmart's the only one who's going to guarantee that. So I was like, great, okay, I've finally made it through the queue. I was one of the chosen few. Let's do this. I try to add it to my cart, and it says there's an error adding to the cart. I've made it through the queue. It just gives me the option to add it to my cart or to cancel. And I'm like, yeah, of course I want to add it to my cart. Add it to the cart. It's like, no. There's an error. We cannot add it to the cart. When you get through the queue, you have a limited amount of time to add the item to your cart or you are booted from the line. So I had 10 minutes to try and get this thing into my cart, and it kept saying error, error, error. We can't get it into the cart. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is... I can't believe it. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the Switch 2 pre-order. I could have it. I can taste it. It's right there. It's within my grasp. And I'm getting this error and I'm seeing the seconds tick away and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think it's going to let me do this. And I eventually slowly watch as 10 minutes completely drain out of the queue, and it boots me because I can never add it to my cart because of an error. Again, all these errors are likely due to server overload on their end. There's just probably no way for them to account for all of the bots and all the people trying to simultaneously get this item at one time. There's no way Walmart is dealing with that much traffic simultaneously on a regular basis, so they have no need to have any way to kind of deal with it. So I think it's likely just a server issue on their end. So eventually, so I abandoned the queue. I'm like, gosh darn, this sucks. And eventually, I hear on the live stream, and I look on Twitter, and Wario64 in the live stream talking, and they're like, oh, you can just go in right now, and you get the original Switch, the Switch not bundle, with just without a queue. It'll just let you check out for some reason. And I'm like, there's no way. And I click on the Switch 2, the Switch 2 regular, and I grab it. In cart, processed, ready to go. And I was like, and confirm my order. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? So that is clearly something Walmart did not intend at all. So I finally have the Switch 2. It's a guarantee, right? Here's the problem with that. We now have, my goal was always to get the Switch 2 bundle, right? So, recap, I probably should have mentioned this up front, but there's two ways you could have gotten the Switch 2. Is the regular, which comes with just this console, or the bundle, which comes with Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World, on its own, if you bought it just regular, is $80, which is a big controversy, right? But if you got it with the bundle, it's $50. So you're saving $30 on this game that, of course, you're going to freaking get because it's one, Mario Kart, the best-selling game on the Switch, and two, like the big launch title for this console. Like you're really not going to be playing anything else on it at release other than Mario Kart World. So like, of course you're going to freaking buy it anyway. So like if you're going to get this console, just get the bundle and save half of the cost of the game like day one. Like you need the bundle. Like it's just financially, that's what you should get, which we'll get into that in a bit, but not everybody obviously does that. So to me though, it's like obvious, like I need the bundle. Like the bundle's where I really need to be focusing my efforts, and I don't have the bundle yet, so I really need the bundle. So I'm like, oh frick. So like I'm still in the queue waiting for the bundle at Walmart, even though now I have secured like the regular Switch 2. We'll transfer over. Best Buy. Best Buy is scheduled to go live at 11 o'clock Central, or most, 12 o'clock, at midnight most places, right? They don't go live until like 30 to 45 minutes past their scheduled time. This is clearly like them not prepared for this at all. Like I mentioned, I tried to get in. I'm using Firefox. That's my browser of choice. And I'm trying to get in. And like everybody's like, yo, Best Buy's letting people get in the queue. Like, get in the queue. And I'm like, okay, I can't get in. Why is this button not turning to like get like confirm and get in queue? And I'm trying. Eventually, they're like, if you can't get in, go to a different browser. I go to a different browser. It works. I'm in the queue. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, so I'm sitting in the queue for Best Buy this whole time. Also, while I'm doing this, I am sitting here continuing to mash confirm on Target. So I am now sitting here. I have a Switch 1 pre-order. I am now in line for Best Buy for the bundle. I'm in line in Walmart for the bundle, and I'm trying to check out with Target for the bundle, and I'm having no luck on any of them. I will go ahead and say I never got anything from Best Buy. Best Buy was the one retailer that I was like, I had absolutely no luck on. So I sat there for several hours. It kicked me out of the queue several times. That was something a lot of people were experiencing, was you'd be in the queue for like an hour and then it would kick you. And so I was in the queue. It kicked me several times. I kept getting back in. I was like, I can't do anything about that. Like, we just got to keep going. And like, got back in the queue after about an hour or two, got sold out. So they completely ran out of stock, and I had no option to get anything from Best Buy. Okay, so Best Buy off the block. All right, it's done. Dunskies. So now we go back to Walmart. We're still in the queue at Walmart for the bundle. Eventually, I hear him say, "Hey, you can just get the bundle right now. You don't have to go through the queue." The thing that happened with the regular thing for the regular non-bundle Switch purchase is now happening for the Switch 2. And so I jump out of the queue real quick. I'm like, sure, why not? It doesn't really matter. I'll at this point jump in, grab it. Boom, secured. Didn't have to go through the queue. Didn't have to, just immediately put it in my cart and checked out and confirmed the order. And I'm like, okay, clearly this isn't supposed to work like that. But after that, I was done with Walmart. I was like, okay, we're good. And then I eventually kept going on Target, and eventually it went through. That being said, a lot of people throughout the night were getting a lot of cancellation emails on their order from the Switch 2 for Target. So even though I had a confirmation on Target, I was like, I don't trust this at all. Like, I don't have a Switch 2 from Target. Like, that doesn't really exist. So now everything's done. Everyone has officially sold out around like 1 o'clock in the morning my time, okay? Target's gone, Walmart's gone, Best Buy's gone. We have one retailer left, and that's GameStop, who for some reason is like, we don't want to go live with this at midnight. We're going to go live with this at like, 10 o'clock a.m. the next morning. And then if you want to pre-order in store, GameStop doesn't open until 12, and we'll have an allotted number of units for every in-person store. So you can go to your store and get it at 12. And it's like, what the frick? Okay, GameStop, you got to be the rebel here. You got to be different. Well, this ends up being a massive issue very quickly, right? So while Best Buy, Target, and Walmart, which are the biggest retailers in America, at least for technical goods in some cases, are all going at the same time at a midnight hour, a late night hour, GameStop is this tiny retailer with not very good infrastructure. The GameStop website has always sucked, okay? They're going live at a reasonable hour in the morning, 10 o'clock a.m., where people are going to be awake, they're going to be active, they're going to be available, and they're going by themselves. So no one, you are not like, oh, well, should I focus on Walmart or should I focus on GameStop? Like, no, you are 100% everybody's going to be tuned in to GameStop. So, like, I'm like, okay, might as well try to get one at GameStop. GameStop, holy frick. 10 o'clock rolls around. 9:30 or like 9:25 rolls around. Boom. GameStop has put the pre-orders open 35 minutes early. 35 minutes early, GameStop has accidentally gone live with pre-orders, and people are getting orders in. And so I'm frantically trying to get in there. I'm working at the time. Like, I have a job, so like I am working at the time, and like I'm focusing on work, and I have the live stream open on the side, and like all of a sudden I hear the live stream going. I'm the same guy, by the way, and he's like, oh, GameStop is now open. It's like, you go get your pre-orders now. And I was like, oh, frick. So, like, I had nothing ready. I was not prepared. And, like, I didn't think I needed over half an hour to prepare for this thing. And so, for one website. So, I was like, okay, like, frick. I try to get in. By the time I try to get in, it's closed. It's over. Like, GameStop has recognized the error of their ways, and they have closed the pre-orders. This is confirmed. People were getting pre-orders through in this way, and they weren't canceled. But like, GameStop just had a problem. You know, they just accidentally did that. And so like, GameStop already kind of dropping the bag. We then get around to actually 10 a.m. when they actually open the pre-orders, and boom, immediately, website and app both crash. So they have the same issue as Target. In my opinion, way worse, because they don't come up for another half an hour. 30 minutes later, I am refreshing. I am, like trying to get into the app. The app just completely shut down. Like you couldn't even use it. Literally an error message was just like, you can't even get into this thing. Like, we're having issues. Like, just come back later. Because it's not even like, we're not even going to make this an effort. Like, you can't get into the app. It's like, okay, frick. So I'm trying to get in on the website. I'm like, the website completely down. Like 404 error, completely down. Like we can't even get to our servers. Like, holy frick. Complete and utter trash fire. So this continues for like 30 minutes. So like eventually people start dropping off, right? There's not as much traffic trying to get in on these pre-orders anymore. So 30 minutes go by and you're finally able to get it up. That's what she said. You're finally able to get the page up and continues to periodically crash. So eventually the button turns red, but it still says not available. So normally, obviously, when you're able to click something on a website, it says, put in my cart or whatever the case is. In this case, the button was grayed out and said not available, and eventually it turned to not available, but it was not grayed out. It was a red button. And so people started clicking the button, and it was adding it to their cart. So, like, that was obviously a technical snafu. But, like, so it's now in my cart. And I'm like, okay, we have it in the cart. This is good. I'm trying to, I'm continually pressing check out. Never went through. Eventually, GameStop sells out pretty quickly after going through, like actually having their site up, and completely sold out. Okay. Did not get a GameStop pre-order in. However, each GameStop physical store had a certain number of units allotted to your store. You know, depending on the size of the store, you could get 20, you could get 50, you could get 100. Just depends, right? Depends on the number of people that are normally in the area and what they expected. So I'm like, I can still get an in-person pre-order at GameStop. And there's a GameStop like 5-10 minutes away. I'm like, sure, let's do it. I'll go down to GameStop and I'll try to get a pre-order in person. I got GameStop credit anyway I'm trying to get rid of. So let's do it. I go down to GameStop at like 11:45, something like that, and to get in line or just, you know, sit out, wait in front of it because the store opens at 12. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I highly doubt that many people got off of work or, you know, chose to use their lunch break or whatever to go and sit in line at the Switch 2 in my location. Like, I am like, my location is going to be fine. Like, I don't think there's going to be that many people in my location in the first place. And, you know, like, I was like, okay, cool. You know, like, and I was also hearing reports on a lot of places that it was very mixed. Like, some GameStops, there were lines around the door. People were camping out immediately after they couldn't get a pre-order, like last night. Or the night of the pre-orders went live. And then there were some people that were like, there's nobody in line at my GameStop at all. I'm the only person here. And like, there's really no reason to come and run to these places because it's not really that many people trying to get the Switch 2 like immediately because it is admittedly going to be like a hardcore thing to do. Like, right. So I'm like, cool. I think my location, there's probably not going to be that much interest. You know, like it's pretty, I'm not going to say super rural, but it's relatively rural. And like, I'm probably the only person here in the whole world that cares about video games anyway. So cool. I don't give a frig. I'll go there at, you know, pretty much opening time and get in line. I get there at 11:45 and there is a line wrapped around the building for Switch 2 pre-orders, or that, you know, extends fairly beyond the building itself. Okay. Not wrapped around the building. But I look at it and I'm like, whoa, I don't think I'm going to get one. I was like, how many units are allotted? And so I get in line, I get the very back of the line, and I asked the lady in front of me, I'm like, hey, because I knew that on the front of the door, they have how many units the store has been provided. And I was like, okay, do we know? Like, do you know how many units they have? And she was like, I called and they asked, and I said they had around 30. And like the guy in front of her was like, I'll go and check and see, you know, like I'll count how many people are in line. And we counted, and there was like 30. And like I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get a freaking pre-order in. And then like the lady in front of him was like, I'm just here with my son. Like I'm not actually getting one, so it's not actually 30. I'm like, okay, I think I might be like the last one to get one at my location. But I didn't expect it to be that tight at all, you know? So my location, they divvied it up in 10 regulars, so 10 non-bundle Switch 2s, and 24 bundles with Mario Kart World. So I was like, okay, well, obviously everybody's going to get the Switch 2 bundle because that's the, like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, you know, like that's obvious to me because it's the most financially responsible thing. And like, what else are you going to play on your Switch 2 other than the one Nintendo game that is going to be releasing with it? Like, that's the only console exclusive game that's going to be coming out with the console. Like, obviously you're getting the bundle, right? I get to the front of the line and they are completely sold out of the regular and still have like 4 bundles left. And I'm like, what the frick is going on here? I was like, why would anyone choose to not get the bundle? And the simple fact of the matter is people are just turned off by the price. Like, you go from $450 to $500 and they're like, I can afford $450. I really can't afford $500. And like, I never even considered that because I'm always looking for the best deal. I'm always trying to be responsible with my money. And like, in a lot of cases, to me, that just makes the most financial sense because I know I'm saving $30, right? even though like a lot of people don't have, clearly in a very financially good place, probably need to be more thankful for that I can just afford to do that. Like I can afford to drop another $50 on the Switch 2 pre-order because, you know, I'm going to be saving money in the long run. And, you know, like it did open my eyes that people were like way more interested in the Switch 2 regular than the bundle in a lot of sense. And admittedly, there were, you know, more than half of, or less than half of, you know, the available units for that. But like, I would just assume, why in the world would you even think about getting the regular one? Like, that just seems silly. Like, why would you even, why would there be any units left of the bundle at all? Because everybody should be going, the first 24 people in line should be getting the bundle. And then the next 10 people will just be stuck with the regular one. And it's like, and that's clearly what GameStop assumed as well, is more than twice as many people were going to want the bundle. But like, clearly that was not the case, or it was the case probably. But GameStop was still having issues with, it was just eye-opening though. It was just interesting to see. Because I don't see people's perspective outside of the hardcore internet community a lot of the time. So it's interesting to see. But GameStop was still having issues with their stuff even then, because the guy in front of me was like, I brought my Switch OLED and I'm going to trade it in to, you know, like to get my money, to get some money. And, you know, Switch 2, if you give GameStop a Switch OLED, trade it in towards a Switch 2, you'll get $175 off, which is honestly a pretty freaking good deal. And like, it's like, okay, like I totally get that. He went up to the counter and he was like, can I trade in? And they were like, honestly, no. Our system is completely down. Our trade-in system is completely down because so many people are doing that there is no way that we can process that right now. So like, you will have to come back and we'll give you the money towards we'll give you the deal and we'll do it towards the Switch 2, but like, you'll have to come back another day and do it. And like, I was like, dang, like just their whole infrastructure is just completely bonked because of this. So, I mean, like, I got my pre-order. So I have 3 Switch 2 bundles. And I guarantee you, I think either I will be canceling them or I will be giving them to people who need them. Like, I don't think I'll be scalping a single one. But I'm seeing people in line were saying the pre-orders were already going up on sites for like $1,000. I'm seeing personally, when I go onto eBay, I'm seeing these pre-orders typically selling about $200 more than what they are initially. So like, I pay, you know, if it's like $550 with tax, people are selling them for like $750 right now. So they're making a $200 profit on the pre-order. This is before the dang thing even they have it hands-on. So like, I assume the price will only go up, especially if stock remains the same. From what I can tell, if you really wanted one, if you really hunkered down and tried to get it, odds are, it is not a guarantee, but like, there is a, you know, like 2 in 3 chance that you probably got a pre-order for the Switch 2, which is very reassuring. I was thinking it was going to be a bloodbath. I thought it was going to be 25% of people got one. You know, 75% are trying to get them. Scalpers and bots completely took over. I thought this was going to be an absolute massacre, and it wasn't. It was actually a lot better off than kind of what I assumed. That being said, I don't know how these rollouts are going to be handled. I assume there will be more stock added as time goes on. So Walmart will probably have like a blip of more stock in a month or something like that. And then like, obviously launch day, there will be significant amount of units that are allocated for just launch day. And you know, like, I don't know how many, and I don't know what this eventually looks like, but from what we're seeing, from what I'm hearing from Japan, from what the economic situation is currently, I cannot imagine that this thing gets easier to find. I cannot imagine that, especially by Christmas, which is, I think, when this thing is going to be a real hot ticket item that's going to be really difficult to get your hands on. This thing is going to skyrocket in price. You're easily going to be selling this thing for $1,000 on eBay. Easily. Which is, I think, really unfortunate. And I'm really glad that I can hopefully provide people who would need it with it. I hope I don't have to do that. Honestly, I hope that in the coming weeks we see, headlines that are like, oh yeah, like everybody got a Switch 2 that wanted one. Stock is looking really good. Nintendo's really optimistic about the supply that they have for the demand. Like, I don't think we're going to. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think, maybe it could. And again, like, it's no harm, no foul if it is, because then I just cancel the pre-orders, or I can even go to the store and return it, or whatever the case is, and I get my money back. And I don't have to worry about it. And if a friend really needs it, they can just go to Walmart and pick it up because supply is really good. But these pre-order situations are getting more and more difficult. I don't know how you combat it. I don't know if retailers know how to combat it. Clearly, retailers like GameStop and Target don't know what the frick they're doing. Like, their infrastructure isn't set up to defend against these mass launches that everybody's trying to get stuff for. I think it was a really cool time, at least, because it was always like an adrenaline rush. It was trying to get this limited time item that like only a handful of people can really get, and like I think is going to be a really big deal. And I don't know. I was hyped. I was hyped for like 24 hours. I was like freaking ready, dude. I was ready to go out there and buy stuff. I am a consumer. Like, I am an American. And I really am glad that I was able to get my pre-orders in. Really, I would have been cool as long as I got one. Like, as soon as I got that first pre-order in, whew, like, I took a huge breath. I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like, we finally got it. Like, it's confirmed. We don't have to worry about this anymore. The nightmare is over. Now we're just doing this to help other people, which you could argue is not helping other people. But to me, I care more about the people around me than obviously some random dude. And I was already like, if I was the last person, if more, because more people did get in line behind me, but not that many. But if I was like the last person in line and they were like, this is the last Switch 2 bundle, and the guy behind me didn't have one, I was going to be like, yeah, just let the guy have it. Like, I don't need it. Like, I was totally cool with that. Like, I was happy to walk away from it. Because I already had freaking another 2, kind of, depending on if Target holds my confirmation or not. I genuinely don't trust them. But since they literally sent me a confirmation, canceled my order, and then sent me another confirmation after they canceled my order when the order had not even come through. Eesh, not a good time at Target at all. But it was an adventure. I'll say that. It was an adventure. I was in the trenches, the battlefield of the Switch 2 pre-orders. And you know what? I'm really glad I came out on the other end with the bag, as the kids would say. I secured the bag, as the kids say. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about the Switch 2 pre-orders. I hope that you got one too if you wanted it. And I hope that you can get one if you didn't. Hey, if you know me, why don't you hit me up? I'll get you that Switch 2. I'll sell it to you market price. Obviously, including tax. I'll get you hooked up, bro. But if not, or don't, if for some reason this episode blows up, don't hit me up. don't hit me up if you don't know me. But if you know me, you can hit me up. But anyway, yeah, these are events, right? These are events in the gaming community, I think, and it's totally fun to chronicle them and be a part of them. So I'm glad I was. But that's all I have to say about it. All right, moving on to impressions. So this week, we kind of changed up the style here. Normally, I do have a specific way I tackle impressions. Impressions to me, when we first started doing this podcast, we, not royally, we being me, Alexis, and Cam, or Alexis, Cam, and I, my grandmother would be very upset with me if she heard that, but she definitely never will. But anyway, we decided to do this podcast bi-monthly, or every other week, so that we could have more time for impressions. In all honesty, it was kind of a win-win for me, because I was like, yeah, like, that would be a lot of work to do this once a week. Like, it would be a lot of time, because I do put a lot of time into this podcast. I know it doesn't seem like it, and I know it. you're like, dude, you just talk. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, how long does it really take? It's like, honestly, I thought the same thing, and it takes way longer than you would assume. Anyway, like, I was like, okay, well, yeah, that helps me with time. Like, I don't have to worry about it every week. But also, like, it does give me more time for impressions. And I do prefer to give more in-depth impressions when I talk about video games. So, like, every single game you've ever heard me talk about on this podcast, well, for the most part, at least ever since I started doing it solo, I know for a fact, every single game that you've ever heard me talk about on the podcast, I've completely finished it. From front to back, I'm done with it. And I'm able to give you a complete and honest, like, interpretation and impression. It's really not an impression. Impression is kind of like what your first impression is, really. You know, that's what you think of when you say impression, right? It's really more of a review because I've experienced the entire game. And, like, I'm talking about it from what I consider to be my subjective viewpoint. And, you know, let's be honest, like, objective. I'm the best and most right gamer in the world, right? Objective viewpoint that, you know, I can have a very detailed and intimate conversation. Like, I think if last week, you know, I talked about Silent Hill 2, if I came in here and I started talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake and I hadn't finished it, I think I'd be really lukewarm on it. And, you know, like, if then, like, I, you know, went and talked about it, you know, a week later, I'd be like, oh, well, this is actually a really good game because what really made the game really great for me was the ending, you know? So, like, sometimes that happens, and I hate it when I hear somebody that's like, oh, yeah, dude, like, I love this game. It's so amazing. The first several hours of it are just the best thing ever. And then, boom, like, you get to the end of it or something, and it's like, or you get, like, halfway through it, and it's like, actually, this game sucks. Like, I actually, honestly, the only fun part of this game was, like, the first 2 hours of it, and, like, that's all I had really played when I talked about it, and, like, now I really couldn't stand this game. Like, you couldn't pay me to play this game. Like, I hate when I hear when that stuff happens, right? I feel like I'm kind of rambling on this, so I'll get to the point here. But this is the first week that I kind of jumped around a lot through several different games, and like, I didn't really finish a lot of them. I finished 2. I'm not going to talk about one of them here because I have so many other impressions to get through. We're already going longer than I'd like at this point in the show. So, like, only one of these games I finished, but the 2 that are honestly the most noteworthy in terms of, like, a mainstream conversation, I didn't play much of. So I'm going to be upfront and honest about that. But I do want to talk about them because I'm not going back to them, or likely not going back to them. And I think that they both deserve to be talked about because they are big deals in their own way. I'm not going to start with that, though. I'm going to start with Haste. Haste is an indie game. And it's an indie game that nobody's really talking about. And it's an indie game that is a lot of fun. But it is a lot of fun for me, and I'll get into why. So Haste is a game you've never heard of, so I need to definitely give a little bit of detail here. It is a 3D fast movement platformer, kind of, really. It's a runner. So you are given kind of a narrow strip of path, and you are going really, really fast. And it is kind of a combo of, like, Tiny Wings, if you know. Everybody loves using this comparison when talking about the game. But Tiny Wings, if you remember that, like, mobile app game that, like, you were a little bird and you were going over hills and you would, you know, fly down really fast to, like, go down the hill and then shoot up the next hill. You know, Tiny Wings, that kind of game. It's literally a combo of that and, like, Sonic the Hedgehog, modern Sonic games. And I think that it's a good comparison. I don't think the Tiny Wings element of it is, like, a huge element of it. It definitely is. I would say that, like, what attracted me to this game is I love modern Sonic, like, fast running and, you know, narrowly avoiding obstacles at breakneck speeds. Like, I think that's cool. And I think that it's fun. And I think that even Sonic Team doesn't do a very good job of it from time to time. Or maybe more than time to time, maybe a lot of times. But, you know, Sonic Adventure was the first game I ever had as a kid. And it's a really defining game for me in a lot of ways. And I think that I've always been chasing that high of that nostalgic feeling that Sonic gives me when I'm going really fast, going loop-de-loops and stuff like that. There are no loop-de-loops in Haste, but you get it. But in Haste, you're going up these hills, you're getting massive amounts of speed, you're getting massive amounts of air, and you're kind of gliding, and then you're able to like dive into these hills and mountains that you're running past, and then you obviously get like a speed boost if you get like a perfect landing or whatever the case is. I honestly it was not that big of a component or a factor in success for me, whether you're doing that or not. What really makes it a successful or failure kind of scenario is if you hit the obstacles, which is where this game is really freaking cool, right? This is where this game really hit that like moment of what exactly I was looking for. Is like missiles are coming down from the sky, and there's like moving obstacles and laser beams and stuff that you're trying to avoid, and like it made me clench my butt because I was like, ooh, I gotta avoid that, just barely missed that, like all these narrow misses and these really intense obstacles at these really high speeds, these lightning speeds, like that is exactly the feeling I wanted from this game, and like it gave it to me all the time, especially later in the game where there's a lot more levels and everything's kind of heated up. I loved that. Like I thought that this game really did an excellent job of that. Where this game kind of falls apart a little bit is its general design. Okay, so you do go into levels, but there are 10 levels in the game, but they are roguelikes. Roguelike levels, which, oof. Here's the problem I have with the game. It's not even really a problem. It's just like, this is kind of not what I really wanted from this. I am not a big roguelike guy. Have I played roguelikes? Have I loved them? Sure. Hades, great. What is Rogue Legacy? Honestly, probably up there as like one of my favorite roguelites, if not like it's really kind of almost, I don't want to say it's better than Hades, but like I think it's really good. I really jived with Rogue Legacy. Not Rogue Legacy 2, that game's kind of a lot more of a different beast, but anyway, I think roguelikes can be good. I don't appreciate the general philosophy behind a roguelike, okay? I don't love the chance behind a run, okay? If you don't know what a roguelike is, you're given upgrades and stuff at random. And if you die, you have to start all over from the very beginning. A lot of roguelikes incorporate permanent progression to make things easier as you go. A lot of them don't. I think at this point you really should. I think there's no excuse why you shouldn't. Like to have a fun experience, but like, to each their own. Design philosophies are different for everybody. But anyway, in this game, you're doing that too. So you go through a level. At the end of it, you get money. If you get to a point you get to a node on a map that is, you kind of choose your route. If you get to a node on a map that is a store, you can then buy upgrades, or you can do a challenge area and it'll give you an upgrade for free, or whatever the case is. These upgrades are things that are going to increase your boost, so you're going faster, your energy, so you kind of have like a glider that you can use to get around easier, and that costs energy, so you can use that more. Or health regen, so like if you hit an obstacle, you'll take damage, and the health regen will kick in if you have a specific upgrade that triggers it. Like that's kind of what you're aiming for here. I only ever, because of the way this game is designed, there's no really reason for you to have anything else, is I only ever invested in health regen stuff because I felt no need to go faster. I was already going very fast. I really didn't need boost unless I was like trying to like alter the trajectory of a bad angle that I had, which wasn't every single time. And so really what was happening a lot was I was getting the crap kicked out of me, and because it's a roguelike and you start completely over, if you die, death was a massive penalty. So I was like, of course I'm going to put everything into health regen. And so I really never died. Or I did. I think I died once. I know I did on the last level. I think I died once on the last level, but other than that, I never died. And then you gain permanent points when you get to the end of a run, and you can use those points to buy upgrades that give you permanent upgrades and make you even better. So these elements just seem completely unnecessary, and it ends up just hurting the experience in terms of like, well, I have to now be committed to a run, which is probably going longer than what I really would have loved for this game to be like a quick pick up and play game. You play a level, it's real quick, you get out, like you can play this on the bus, you know? Like if you wanted to, you could play this on the bus for 5 minutes, put it down, make some progress, and come back to it tomorrow, or whatever the case is. I would have loved that. I think that this game is almost fighting itself on that kind of design philosophy. It's almost like this game could have been that, but like it like is fighting itself by making this roguelike philosophy that is just not really necessary. Like I didn't really care about the vast majority of the upgrades here because I think the game is fun at a base level. You don't need upgrades to be better. Like these upgrades really don't do a whole lot to increase your fun or experience, and like make you so much more powerful or feel like at the end of a run like you're a god now. Like the only thing that it ever did was like, oh, well, I can just take a lot of damage now because I have all these health regen things. It's like I really don't need anything else. So I don't know. I really don't love the roguelike philosophy in general, and I think in this game all it does is hinder the player. These upgrades seem superfluous. They don't seem necessary. Like I think it pigeonholes the game into a structure that makes you commit to a run and punishes you heavily if you like fail a run at some point. So like I really didn't love that. Okay, there is an endless mode. I think that I'm playing on the Steam Deck, so I was just turned it off halfway through a run if I was like had something to do or something, or I just suspended it if I had something to do halfway through a run. But like I think this game could have been really, 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 really good if it really just kind of honed in on the gameplay itself and not this roguelike structure. But that being said, I got everything I wanted out of this game, man. Like I mean, like I it's unfortunate that like that didn't appeal to me, right? Some people may really love the roguelike element, and technically it'll give you like infinite replayability, quote unquote, because it's like you have random things every single run. But like I said, those things really don't change your run. Like if you look at something like a Binding of Isaac or something, and it's like, well, yeah, clearly those upgrades are so vastly different, they're going to change your run from run to run. So it really is like a different game every single time because like your run's going to be so different. There's so many different upgrades, but like in this case, I really didn't see that here. So anyway, all I wanted, though, is something to give me that rush of speed and like that cool fun factor that comes from narrowly dodging things and flying through the sky at super fast speeds and running around the ground. And I mean, this game 100% does that. I think if they really tuned it in and just honed in on that specific element of it, it would be so much better. And I would like this game so much more. But as it is, I still think it's great. I still think it's like an 8 out of 10. It's like an 8 out of 10. It's a good price, too. I got it day one release because I wanted to support it and what it was trying to do in this kind of gameplay. And honestly, like somebody needs to make fast 3D platforming games because Sega just doesn't know how to do it very well. So like, and they're kind of the only people who do it. So like, I think it's a really good price. It's like under $20 for me. I think it's $20 now, but it was like $18 or something for me. Like I 100% got my funds worth out of it, and I would recommend it. If anything I said here sounds interesting to you, if you are looking for that breakneck speed, that pacing of a fast, modern Sonic level, like I think you're going to get something fun out of this, and I would recommend it. But moving on to Blueprints. Blueprints is the big hot game of the time. The past 2 weeks, really, Blueprints has taken over a lot of people. Blueprints free on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra. I played it on PlayStation Plus Extra because I always play it on PlayStation Plus Extra if it's available, or PlayStation if it's available, because I am a trophy addict and I want all of the trophies I can get. So, however, these games' trophies are incredibly difficult to get. Like, you really have to be super hardcore in this game to get even a single one of these trophies. So I didn't get a single one of them. But this is the first game I'm going to be talking about a long time that I did not finish, and I don't intend to go back to. This game has gotten insane critical reception. blew me away. 89 on Metacritic right now. At one point, it was a 90. I think it was above a 90. This game has been received incredibly well by critics. High marks for a puzzle game. That's kind of crazy. To a point where I've seen a lot of people talking about this. Like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes came out last year, got similar scores, and bro, it came and went. Like it came and went. I don't think a lot of people talked about it. This game is like, I think there is a factor if it's on Game Pass, it's on PlayStation Plus Extra, people have access to it, but for a low price, obviously. But like this is a hardcore puzzle game, right? It's a hardcore puzzle game. Not only is it a hardcore puzzle game, but it's a roguelike. Ooh, we just talked about that. I don't love roguelikes, but here's the thing. Okay, we'll get into it. You play as this little guy whose uncle dies, and you want your inheritance. He's this eccentric old dude who's probably freaking rich. He has a mansion, and you have to make your way to the 46th room of the mansion. There are 45 rooms in the mansion. You have to make your way to the 46th in this crazy, wacky mansion that you are building the design of as you go through it. You're choosing the rooms you go to. They randomly spawn, kind of, in a way. And you choose the design of the room, and you choose the layout of the rooms, and then at the end of every day, you only have a certain amount of steps you can use and walk through the mansion. Everything resets. And you have to do it all again. So each run, like I said, is based off a random number or random set of rooms. So like if you get to a door, it'll say, okay, here are the 3 rooms that you can choose from that this room is going to be. And you kind of have to strategically choose which rooms you're getting and what you need. This room may have a key in it, so you need that one. And this room may have a door that, is going to align with like the pathway you're trying to build, so like you need that one, and so on and so forth. And as the game progresses, it gets a lot more complicated on the rooms you want to choose, because certain rooms do certain things in certain spaces and certain times and blah 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 blah. And like this game is hardcore, okay? Like it is a hardcore puzzle game that has layers on layers on layers on layers on layers, and it doesn't have any. I'm not even talking about the rooms. Like, I'm talking about everything else. Like, everything else that's involved in this particular situation, they are a big deal, right? This random element, though, is like the one thing people are complaining about with this game is like, well, like a lot of times you need specific rooms to do specific things, and certain rooms build upon certain other rooms that you need in certain orders, and yada, yada, yada. Like I said, it's fairly involved. And if you're given a random set of rooms, you may never get the room that you need. So, like, you could have, like, sometimes, like, I learned that in order to do certain things, you need to have certain rooms first. So, like, for instance, I'm trying to build a garage. That's, like, an objective I'm trying to do, is I want the garage room. Well, the garage room is inaccessible until you get the breaker room. You get the breaker room, and there's a breaker that you can flip in the room that then allows you to spawn a garage room. So you need to have the breaker room. You need to choose the breaker room first, use the breaker room, and then you'll have access to the garage room, which can then only spawn in a certain space. It's a thing. But this is kind of how the game works, right? Well, if, let's say, I got the breaker room, okay? I got the breaker room, and now I want to get the garage room. Well, the garage room may not even spawn. And I have built my entire run around trying to get the garage room to spawn. I think the game typically kind of leads you in those paths. Like, you probably have an increased chance of the garage room spawning if you have switched on the breaker room. But, like, that's not the only example. That's the example that I ran into that I recognize. But, like, if that room didn't spawn, your run is completely screwed. And, like, you will pretty much just have ruined a run, and there's nothing you can really do. It's just like, well, you had a random chance of getting 3 rooms, and the room you wanted wasn't there. It's like, okay. So that's like the big thing that a lot of people are complaining about, and it's like, bro, I don't know what to tell you about this, but that's how every roguelike works. Like, I've never played a roguelike where it's like, oh, well, yeah, I got this bad upgrade, and yeah, my whole run kind of fell apart from there. It's like, yeah, and then I wasted 45 minutes because like the run just didn't give me what I needed. It's like, yeah, that's like all roguelikes. Like that's just how this genre works. So it's funny that people are complaining about it in this instance, but don't complain about it everywhere else. It's like that's the slot machine effect here. But I think people don't like the slot machine effect as much when they're like, they can't do anything. Like there's not even a chance for them to do what they want to do. So I do understand it. But like at the same time, I'm just anti-roguelike in a lot of ways. So like, I'm just going to push back on that and be like, yeah, dude, I've been there for a long time. So level of complexity of this game and the detail of the puzzles is ridiculous. I eventually got outside. So like that garage that I was talking about, this is kind of semi-spoilers if you want to figure out this puzzle, but like it eventually you can spawn the garage, and the garage will lead you to go outside, which like at that point you really haven't been encouraged or can do yet. And like that'll lead you to a whole new place and give you a permanent upgrade. And then I went to an orchard and I opened that, and like I saw like, oh well, like there are spots in certain areas of the mansion that will make certain rooms, if you put them there, like they will give you better stuff. And it's like, oh dang. like the levels of complexity here are kind of crazy. And that was problem number one. Problem number one here is I'm not a big puzzle game guy, okay? I've already established I'm not a big roguelike game guy, and I'm not a big puzzle game guy, okay? I am dumb, okay? Let's just get there. I'm dumb. This is a game that literally, I've never seen a game do this, or probably because I don't play a lot of puzzle games, but this game specifically was like, when you open it up, it's like, you need a pencil and paper. Like, go get a pencil and paper right now, and because you're going to need it. Like, that's how deep the puzzles go. You're going to need to keep track of stuff that you find over several hours and information that you get over several hours. Like, you're going to need to compile that and have it all in front of you, and the only way we're going to let you do that is if you have a pen and paper and you write it all down. And I'm like, that's a lot more work than I really want to put into my relaxation time. Like, I really kind of go to games for a kind of chill experience most of the time, like to kind of get away from having to think and work and try like a lot of times in real life. And this game is going to make me work real hard. And so like, I'm like, I really don't want to do that. Some puzzles are also forced upon you and are very repetitive. I think anybody who's played the game knows I'm referring to the dartboard. In order to progress in certain areas, or specifically one, if you want a reward, you have to do the dartboard puzzle, which the dartboard puzzle is essentially a long list of math equations. There's like 8 freaking math equations you have to do. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Like, I feel a sense of, of reward, and I'm really glad I did that. And, like, I got a key and a diamond or a gem or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool, nice. And then I had to do it again. And I was like, okay, like, I can do it again. And, like, and I had to do it again. And I had to do it again. And it progressively gets harder, which is another part of the design that I think is very respectable, is, like, the game starts off, every puzzle that you come across in every room is, like, very simple, like, super easy. And then, like, as you progress, run to run, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And I think that's a really smart way of doing puzzle design. Obviously, that's how you should do puzzle design. But, like, if you don't solve the puzzle, it doesn't get harder. So, like, something like The Witness, which I played a little bit of, The Witness is another big hardcore puzzle game. Like, I would brute force my way through a certain puzzle, not understand how I solved it, and then be like, I have no idea how to do anything moving forward. Like in this case, it's like, we're going to give you the most simple version of this puzzle you possibly can have. And then we're going to just like slowly build it up from there. Like, this is like a baby could figure out this puzzle kind of level of puzzle. And then like, as we progress, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. I think the dartboard puzzle is already too long. Even the first time you do it, it's too many equations. You're doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. It eventually gets to like even more complex stuff. It's kind of like you just need, at some point, you're just going to pull out a calculator, bro. Like, at some point, you are just going to pull out a calculator, and it's no longer, like, doing it in your head and just being like, oh, yeah, this is a fun little brain teaser. It's like, I'm just going to get out a calculator because it's too much. It's too many times, and, like, the equations are getting too hard for me to keep in my head over and over and over again. Like, no. Like, I didn't really love that particular puzzle that I was playing over and over and over again. There's even a trophy for doing it like 40 times, and I'm like, I don't want to live in a world where I'm doing this 40 times. Like, I don't think that sounds fun at all. It seems like a decent number of people like agree with me in this way, that the beginning of the game is really not very rewarding. And like the thing about it is that most of those people, some of those people I've even heard come back and be like, oh yeah, well, I put like 20 hours into it, and now like this is the best game of the year. Like this is my favorite game. This game has returned dividends. Like, I love all the puzzles. I think that the level of complexity of the puzzles is insane and awesome, and I love deciphering everything and seeing how, oh, like I saw this thing at the beginning of the game and like I didn't know what it meant, and now I've gotten so deep down the rabbit hole. It's like, oh, now I get it. Like, everything comes together. It's all clicking. And that sense of satisfaction is so amazing. And there's so much of that in this game. And I'm like, I just simply don't want to put in that time. Like, I'm not enjoying myself enough that I don't see, like, there's so much else. There is so much else that I can play right now. Like, I continuously look at my shelf and I'm like, dang, I got to get through Metaphor Refantasia. Like, I got an 80-hour JRPG I know I got to get through. Oh, well, the Oblivion remake just dropped. Well, frick, I kind of really want to play that. Oh, well, Expedition 33 just got a 93 on Metacritic, or 92 on Metacritic. Oh, well, frick, well, now I got to play another 30 to 50-hour JRPG, or not JRPG, that's a French RPG, an FRPG, that I, like, is now like a game of the year contender and is even supposed to be better than this game. Like, well, frick, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to put 10 hours into this game that I'm already not really enjoying. I probably have to have a walkthrough up because I'm not smart enough. Like, I'm tired as it is at the end of the day, and like I don't need this like reading a book-esque experience that's just going to put me to sleep. Like, I can't see myself putting the 10 to 20 hours into this game that I would finally start seeing dividends for. And then some people are like, well, no, man, I've been playing this game for over 100 hours, and I'm still finding crazy stuff that, like, this game is, like, insane. And I'm like, bro, I can't commit to that. I can't commit to that. And I think what it ends up being is, like, I would love to be into games like this, but I just don't think they're for me. I don't think I'm a puzzle. I think I've confirmed hardcore puzzle games. I now know they're just not for me, bro. They're just. I actually had Lorelei on like my wish list on Steam. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which is another very hardcore puzzle game, like this that came out last year and got really good reviews. And I'm now like, no. I literally played this game. And I went in and removed Lorelei from the Laser Eyes, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes from my wish list on Steam because I just don't think I'm a puzzle guy. I was like, I think I played The Witness, I played this, and I bounced off both of them real freaking hard. And these are both considered to be like some of the greatest games ever made. I just don't think I'm a puzzle guy. I don't think I'm a puzzle guy. I mean, like, I pull up a walkthrough half the time when I'm playing a game and a puzzle comes up because I'm like, I just don't really want to deal with this puzzle. I really just rather just get through this. So it's like, I just think I've realized I'm not a puzzle fan here. I'm not a roguelike guy. So like, I really don't love that element of this game either. I will say, I really do appreciate the design behind this game. I genuinely look at it and I'm like, objectively, I don't see many problems with this game. Obviously, the roguelike elements is like the one true objective fault you can find with it because it punishes the player at no fault of their own. But everything else, I genuinely think the design behind this game is simply amazing. It is really well done and really, really respectable. I get why the reviews are here. I get why the scores are this high. It surprises me that critics didn't have the same issues that I'm having, you know? Like, where are the stupid critics that don't know puzzles? Like, you know, like, that's my question. You know, how are these guys not bouncing off of it in the same way that I am? And I'm seeing other people bounce off of it similarly. I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm stupid, or, you know, like, reviewers had just a better environment to deal with this for. I don't know. You know, maybe when you're in a Discord of a bunch of press and they're all talking about the same things, and I don't know. It's maybe a better experience. But for me, it was not. And I'm done. I'm never going back to this. Like, I'm never going back to it. I deleted it, uninstalled it. You know, and I'm not even going to say I'm glad I tried it, because I didn't get anything out of it. I really could have just said, yeah, the reviews are good. I'm sure it's good. It's just not for me. And I would have had the exact same end result. And now I can say, like, I do agree, like, the design behind this is really good, and I still agree with that. But I probably would have had that exact same conclusion if somebody had just walked me through how the game was designed. So, you know, it is what it is. It's really unfortunate I didn't jive with it. I'm super happy for the people that do. Just, unfortunately, not for me, dog, as the guy from American Idol would say. I think he'd said that. I really don't know. But anyway, it's been, what, like freaking 20 years since I've watched American Idol? It's kind of crazy that the show's still on. Anyway, that's very off topic. Finally, we have the last game of the impressions. Another game I did not finish, but my impressions may surprise you, is South of Midnight. This is a game that is sitting at a 77 on Metacritic right now. It is made by Compulsion Games. Compulsion Games, obviously the developers of Contrast, where you play as, like, the imaginary friend of a little girl, like a kind of a puzzle platformer in a way, mostly a platformer from what I remember. And We Happy Few, the main one that everybody would remember, is We Happy Few. That's right. Compulsion Games made We Happy Few. We Happy Few obviously was a complete dumpster fire. It was the reason that Microsoft bought the team. I guess this is a good time to mention. This is a first-party Microsoft studio. So Microsoft, back in the day, We Happy Few released a trailer, the announcement trailer. It was a really awesome trailer. I mean, the genuinely really, really good trailer. And it blew everyone away to a point where literally Microsoft just went and bought them. The game came out, and it was a buggy, half-made mess. It did not deliver on... It was a roguelike game. Oh, cough, cough. That seems to be a really big running factor in today's episode. I didn't mean for that to be the case. But, yeah, roguelite that did not seem to really deliver on pretty much what everybody wanted, which was like this really cool story, almost like Bioshock-esque experience. That's what everybody thought this game was going to be. And it ended up just being garbage. None of their games... This is, by the way, their first game, Compulsion Games, that has made above a 70. Both Contrast and We Happy Few are below 70 on Metacritic. They're in the 60s, which is crazy. I don't think Contrast is that bad. I've played Contrast. Contrast is fine. It's just broken. It's completely buggy, and it's not anything particularly amazing in any way or form. You know, like, it's just like another platformer kind of game. It's just incredibly broken and buggy. And I remember that was like one of the first games I played on the PlayStation 4 because it was one of the first PlayStation 4 PlayStation Plus games. So I got to play it there. But it was a broken mess, so it didn't really matter. But anyway, so this is now a 77. South of Midnight is a game where you play as a young woman who discovers she has Weaver abilities. I say that in that accent because this game takes place in Louisiana. You are dealing with giant catfish and alligators, and you're in a swamp, and a hurricane takes your mama away and drifts her down a river, and you got to go find her. You got to save your mama using your Weaver abilities. I should probably stop doing that. But anyway, It's very there's a lot of jazz music, Louisiana inspiration. It's kind of got a stop motion art style. All that stuff is really stand out here, and I'll get to it in a minute. But like this game sitting at a 77, like impressions beforehand were a little bit middling. The fact that this game is made by Compulsion's to 77, I think we can easily say like, what the frick was Microsoft doing? Like this is a game that had all of the money Microsoft could throw at it behind it, right? You know, like this had a Microsoft budget, not necessarily the same way that like a Halo would have, right? But like it's you know, a Microsoft title that had way more funding than they did prior with the other two games. And it's still a 77. And I think you look at this and you say, obviously, dang, Microsoft really messed up buying the studio. Like, why did Microsoft buy the studio? On the promise that We Happy Few was going to be good, and their previous game was like a horrible trash fire 2. How are we expecting this game to be that good, and it ended up not being? We literally just had a trailer to go off of, and Microsoft was clearly just out there freaking spending money like there was no tomorrow, just buying up every studio that looked like it had any promise of being good. And I think a lot of those purchases clearly didn't work out. Compulsion Games is, I think, easily the worst one. It's crazy to me they weren't shut down. They have shut down Tango Gameworks. They shut down other studios, and I guarantee you they'll continue to shut down studios. And, I mean, it's kind of an insult that Compulsion Games lives on, but Tango Gameworks was shut down after making Hi-Fi Rush. It is what it is. Clearly, they wanted this game to just get out and get their investment off of it. Maybe I doubt this game it didn't perform bad enough that they're gonna shut the studio down or whatever. And I don't think Microsoft is in a position where they're looking to do that right now. But like, it is what it is. South of Midnight, I didn't hear anything good. People weren't talking about this. It was on Game Pass. I was like, I haven't gone to Game Pass in a while. I want to get my money's worth out of it. Let's give it a shot. I thought I was going to be in and out on this game in like an hour. I thought I was going to play it for an hour and be like, there's nothing good here. No one's been talking good about it. This game kind of sucks. I'm just going to back out. I thought it was going to be a trash fire. And I actually kind of like it. Like I was genuinely expecting to hate this game. Not hate it, but like be like, this game kind of sucks. Like it's so middling. I don't like it very much. And I was like, no, like I'll give it a shot. Played it for like around 3 hours, just putting like an evening into it or something like that. And I was like, oh dang, this game it's actually kind of good. Like there's definitely good elements to this game, and like some elements that I thought looked really bad are like better than I assumed they were going to be. Like I feel like I have to champion this game. This game is not like a freaking great game, okay? It is not like a 10 out of 10, but it's like I don't hear a single soul talking well about it. And everybody, I think, was just like, yeah, screw this game. I don't give a frick about it. And nobody's talking really great about it. And the reviews aren't fantastic. And it's like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm getting actually some really good stuff out of this game. And I think there's some really cool moments in it and some really interesting ideas and some good work. And I don't hear anybody talking about it. And I'm like, okay, I think I need to like champion this freaking game from a developer that I don't think is any good, like, that has a horrible track record, that probably needs to be shut down. I would easily kill these people off to bring back Tango Gameworks, even though they are coming back. But like, how did this game get this bad of a reception, this like meh of a reception, when it does have some good stuff in it? So let's start off from the top here. When I started the game, combat was honestly not that great. It was like, I feel like I'm playing a freaking PS2, PS3 game combat. Like, it is arena combat that stops you and makes you deal with stuff, right? It just makes you deal with some enemies and then you have to go on. It's not very good combat. It's pretty stilted. You have like a very basic like 3 or 4 hit combo, and that's like kind of it. You know, like you have a charge attack that I never use, like, you know, that kind of deal. You know, like, it was, you know, fine. Like, it was all right. Platforming, similarly, it was like, okay, like, it's pretty stilted. This feels like somebody who didn't make a platformer or doesn't know how to make platformers tried to make a platformer. Like, you know, you're climbing along ledges and it's pretty slow and you're hopping around and you don't have a lot of mobility. And it's like, okay, like, this is fine. Like, it's serviceable. Exploration and level design are fine. Like, it's pretty obvious where you need to go to find secrets, and it's really not that great of an incentive to do that. And it's like, okay, like, it is what it is. Nothing great. Nothing like horrible, though. It's just like, it's passable. Everything here is passable. As the game goes on, I got a lot more options to do within combat. You get like a pull, you get a push, you get like a weakening ability, you get a skill tree that you can upgrade your abilities, and like you start having more options and more stuff to do. Enemy types start getting more varied, and I'm like, oh, this is actually like not bad. Like, I went from being like, this is like the most mediocre combat I've ever played, to like, oh no, like this is actually not half bad. Like, this is actually decent. Like, this is actually not half bad. And then platforming, I start getting more options. Again, it is not like great, but I start getting like I get like a dash / a glide. I get like a grapple ability that's like only, obviously it's like only like finite defined points as to where you're going to be on these things. It's like, okay, like this is actually, you know, like not horrible. Like, we went from having this really horrible stilted combat or like movement to like kind of giving me a lot more options and a lot more like freedom in terms of movement, and I actually kind of like am okay with it now. Like, I went from being like, this is like very mediocre, to like being like, okay, this is actually like, this is passable, this is serviceable. And you're like, okay, Henry, cool. You went from thinking a game was like mediocre to subpar to being like, it's good to all right. Like, that doesn't seem like a very good thing, right? Like, that doesn't seem like a huge sell. Like, one, yes, I totally agree with that. But two, that's not where this game shines. Like, this, I would not sell you, oh, if you really love beat 'em up combat and platforming, play this game. Absolutely freaking not. Like, that's not where this game shines. Where this game shines is the art direction, the music, and the theming, story writing. Like, all of that is actually really freaking good. Like, the art obviously is like a kind of stop motion-esque thing. It looks pretty good. Again, I'm not going to be like, yo, you got to freaking play this game for the art, but like, it is good. I like the themes. Like, it's not a theme you see all the time, like a deep Southern Louisiana vibe. Like, I really love the vibe of New Orleans. I just went to New Orleans a few weeks ago, and like, I didn't realize how scummy it was. I'd only been there as like a kid, and so I was like, oh, well, you know, like, that's cool. We're going to go to the World War II History Museum, and, you know, like, that was fun. And Tom Hanks talked to me about airplanes, and like that, you know, like, that's kind of the vibe I got from New Orleans then. And I went as an adult, and I'm like, oh, this place is actually kind of scummy. Like, this like whole Louisiana charm thing is like kind of seated in a lot of nasty stuff. But like, anyway, I still think the total vibe around the New Orleans is like a fun one, and like a unique and interesting one, and one you don't get anywhere else, really. And I think that's cool to see that represented here. And, you know, like, the themes get pretty dark and like way more interesting and complex than I was assuming. And where this game really kicks off is the freaking music. Holy frick. I didn't even know this. There's straight up like original musical songs that have lyrics that are just dedicated to like what is going on in the story. Like at the end of a specific segment, you'll get a song and it'll be like, yeah, I killed my brother and I hated him and he was nice, but I didn't like him very much. And it's like, okay, well, frick, like that's literally what the frick we're talking about. Like, that's what's happening in the game right now. Like, okay. And it's like a fun musical number. I love the brass and like, you know, all those instruments and the vibe, the jazz of a New Orleans musical number. And this game is filled with them. Even like the ambiance music is like really like voodoo vibes, and like, you know, like it's well done. Like, it's honestly it pushed me to want to continue to play this game. Like, once I got to the first musical segment, I was like, which isn't like a freaking rhythm game or whatever, but it's like just the fact that they went to that effort of making that musical number and adding that into the game. I was like, there are some really cool stuff going on in this game, and it really appeals to me in a way that I wasn't expecting it to. So like I was like, I kind of want to continue to play this game. This game is only like 9 hours. Like it's not long at all. Like the how long to beat is like 9-10 hours long, and you can probably get through it faster. And there's even elements like if you didn't like the combat, there's literally an option to just turn it off. You don't have to do it at all. Like that's how much confidence they had in their combat, I guess. But like honestly, like I'm already a third of the way through it or whatever. Why not? Why not just push through? You know, and see those moments and experience the game. It's not that much longer, you know, like I feel like this is a game that I wouldn't mind going back to and playing. Here's the problem with that, as we kind of spoke a little bit earlier about in Blueprints. Almost immediately after I picked up this game, guess what happened? The Oblivion remake dropped, and then I played that for like an evening. And then guess what happened after that? Expedition 33 dropped, and I really want to play that, and I haven't had the time, and I'm not going to this weekend. I know you're listening to it after the weekend that Expedition 33 comes out, but remember, this is a time capsule episode. But I'm not going to have time to do it this weekend, so like I'm very frustrated with that, but I'm immediately going to start playing that when I have time. So like, where am I going to find it? And then, like, I want to pick up Metaphor ReFantazio, which is going to be a whole month of my life. So, like, where am I getting? And then I got 50 million other games to play that are all probably much better than this game. Where am I going to find the time to drop 6 hours to go back and play and beat South of Midnight? I mean, like, I don't see it as a reality, you know? Like, there's just so many other better games out there. Even though this game is short, even though this game has things that I really enjoy in it, I can't sit here and be like, yeah, dude, I really want to like put more time into it. Like my life is now at a point where it's like time is a premium. I only have so much of it. I have so many games and so little time, and you cannot sit here and tell me, yeah, put another 8 hours into frickin' South of Midnight when you have hundreds of hours of games to get through that aren't even like, and then you have all these other games coming out, you know, like the Switch 2 comes out in a month and a half. I'm going to be playing that. Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out like a month after that. Death Stranding 2 comes out around that exact same time. You know, like there's a million other games that are coming out too, you know, Ghosts of Yote is on the horizon, Grand Theft Auto. I'm not playing Grand Theft Auto this year, but like Grand Theft Auto, Metal Gear Solid Delta, like there's a million and one games coming out this year that I think look great and I really want to play. I can't justify freaking playing another 6 hours of South of Midnight right now. It's hard to justify, right? I mean, like, I genuinely want to go back to it. I just don't think I will. It's just a reality. And the harder, it's always harder to go back to a game the longer I stay away from it. So, like, I can't see myself getting back to this game for another freaking 5 years. So, like, at that point, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to replay the game now because I don't remember how to do anything, yada, yada, yada. I mean, like, who knows? Maybe I'll pick it up and just try to breeze through it. I'll turn off the combat and, you know, crank the game down to easy or something and just steamroll it. I don't know, because all I really care about is exactly what I've told you about, which is like not the gameplay. Right? So anyways, I wanted to come out here and be like, yeah, there are elements to this game that aren't great, but there are elements that are, and I think that the narrative behind this game right now is really negative, and I think that Compulsion Games has earned that, to be quite honest, based on their previous games, but I think this game doesn't deserve that kind of reputation. To be real. To be real. I don't think they deserve it. So, like, I think South of Midnight is worth checking out if you have a Game Pass subscription. Give it some time. Like, don't pop it in for an hour and be like, okay, yeah, I'm done. Like, give it like until you get to the first main section with the catfish, and then make your judgment call on if this game is for you or not, because I think that's when you're really going to know. But I think a lot of people are going to be turned off before then, to be quite honest, because the game is just starts off really not great. It starts off really like not fantastic, and it doesn't particularly get that much better gameplay wise, at least from where I'm at. So like, I don't know. It's South of Midnight. That's my impressions on it. I think I wanted to get that out because again, it's a timely thing, and it's also a game that I think I'm just not hearing any positivity on. So like, I really wanted to give out a little bit of that. Still be objective. Still kind of say, yeah, there's some issues here or there, but overall, I think there's a lot of stuff people aren't emphasizing, like some of the good elements too. So anyway, that's my opinion on South of Midnight. But that's this episode of the Plug in Play podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around. This was a fun episode. I really enjoyed this one. Switch 2 pre-orders, obviously a big deal. Lots of fun talking about that. And then my impressions, I think I really rolled with those today. They were a lot of fun too. But you know, thanks for sticking with me. 2 hours and 20. That's a honker. I really need to get better about that. I was like, oh, well, I only have 3 news topics, and they're not going to be that long. And I only have 3 impressions, and I'm not really going through the whole game. I'm only talking about like half. I only have minimal impressions on it. And it's like, oh, well, here we are, 2.5 hour episode again. I need to just like pare this down. I need to figure this out better. But anyway, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you. You're my friend, I'm yours. At least I hope you think that. If not, if you're hate listening to this, I hope you're getting some entertainment value out of it in that way, I suppose. But, you know, I do encourage you to do other things with your time, if that's the case. But anyway, I hope that you get your Switch 2 pre-orders in. I hope that you like Blueprints. I hope that you try out Haste, if that sounded interesting. I hope that Marathon is good. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't have a dog in that fight. I'm hopeful for a lot of things, for the gaming industry, for you, for everyone, really. And I appreciate you for sticking around this long. But I'm not going to hold you any longer, friend. I'm going to let you go. And I'm going to let you fade on out with the Plug and Play outro. Nice little catchy ditty. And I'll see you next time here on the Plug and Play podcast. Goodbye.